Now, for those of you using the stats calculator for the class, what you'll find is that the operation of finding p-values and test statistics for hypothesis tests is essentially the same process as shown in the videos on the TI calculator. You just need to know where to find things. So we have the tests submenu, and that lists all the different types of tests that you might run into. In fact, you actually won't run into all of these in this class, but t-test of a mean, that's the one that we went over in class. So t-test of a mean is generally used in this class. Some classes might actually use z-test of a mean. If that's the case in yours, you might want to make sure you understand from your instructor when to use each one. But for my class, I only have people use t-test based off of reasons that I mentioned in the course. Now, when you bring that up, there is a set of items that you need to provide. So you need to provide some information about your population. So in fact, you want the mean of the population that was given in your null hypothesis. All right, so let's say we have a hypothetical value of 25.4. Okay. Then in your alternative hypothesis, it asks for the symbol that's in there. So really what it's looking for is whether you're using traditionally what's known as a two-tailed test, a left-tailed test, or a right-tailed test. And that determines how the calculator is going to come up with the value of your p-value. So it's determined by the symbol in the alternative hypothesis. So I'm just going to leave it checked to do a two-tailed test. That's fine in this example. Then you need to provide some information about your sample. So a lot of times that information is just given right out to you in the problem. It'll say the mean of this sample is such and such, standard deviation is something else, and so forth. So you would just insert that information here. So let's just say 28.7 is the mean of our sample, 9.6 is the standard deviation, and the sample size is 45. Now there's one other box here, but notice that it's kind of grayed out here, and that just means you can't insert something at this time. And the reason that you can't do that at this time is because your input is coming from the statistics of a set of data, which is the most common way that the problems are presented to you. Occasionally, though, you might run into a problem that gives you input from a set of data. And if that's the case, you can switch over here. You'll notice these boxes gray out now, and you can tell it where your list is contained. So probably in L1. So if you want to insert data in L1, just go over to your list editor and start putting in some data in whatever is in the problem. Then back to t-test, if you hit calculate, it would calculate the mean, standard deviation, and the sample size of that list, and then do the hypothesis test from that. All right, but for this example, we're just doing input from stats. All right, and we're all set. Everything's in, so we'll hit calculate, and then it comes up with, at the bottom, the information that you need. The first of which is the test statistic, and in this case, it's about 2.31, but of course, round to whatever you need to. And the p-value is 0.0259. It repeats for us the sample mean, sample standard deviation, and the sample size, only because if you gave input from a set of data, you wouldn't know those values because you didn't calculate them on your own. And that way you'd know what the mean, standard deviation, and sample size of this data set was. And that's everything. That's how we would use this.